pleasure for Bronxartspace to have these artists all the way from Greece. And I just wanted to briefly introduce our panel and the founder of the gallery before we get started. This is Linda Cunningham. She's the founder of Bronxartspace. The gallery has been around since 2008. We do exhibitions all year long supporting emerging and underrepresented artists. So I hope you'll join us again. And then tonight, we have Nique. Hello. And we have, who's in the exhibit, and her work is here. She'll talk more about her work. And then we have Lady K Fever, who's moderating the conversation with Bronx-based graffiti artists. And we have Vassiliki, Vayenou, one of the curators. And then we have Cleo43, who's also in the exhibition, and you can see her work here. And then Blanka Amezkua, also co-curator, who's taken some photographs. So yeah, thank you so much for being here tonight.
I'm Stefan Imes. I used to do fashion order here.
And did you guys meet during the opening?
Yes. No, she invited me actually.
Yes. Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you. And how are we on recording? We're good? It's recording? Okay. So there are two mics.
So I use both of them?
No, use one.
Use one, and then someone else can hold the other. Oops. And then, let's see.
So, well, I've written here a long introduction that's not even necessary anymore. I feel cozy, and I just want to say good evening to everybody and thank you for coming. We're really excited to be here at the Bronxartspace. And I just want to make sure that I really thank warmly everybody who has contributed with their enthusiasm, their support. Thank you, Lady K Fever, for the honor to moderate this talk. So we have been preparing for months, and we have been making great efforts from all sides. And I just wanted to say thank you to especially Stephanie Lindquist, Linda Cunningham, Sabine Schumacher,
Yes.
somewhere around here, I'm sure. Thank you guys so much. Throughout this time, you have been so much supportive to us, and we appreciate that very much. And from the bottom of my heart, I wish to thank my dear friend and co-curator, Blanka Amezkua, who had the initial idea to say, okay, let's do something at the Bronxartspace. And then we came up together with the idea to make to present a show with female Greek street artists. And we have here two of them out of the four who made it to New York. Cleo43 and Nique, who just both arrived like from the sites where they create their murals. Anyway, I want to thank also the artists very, very much for their superhuman efforts, their patience. Guys, you have been amazing. You are quick, effective, and you really made this happen. Thank you to everybody who has been so kind and supportive all this time. So,
that's good. Well, thank you so much too for coming to New York, coming to the Bronx and sharing with us another portrait of street art and graffiti, and then from the lens also of being women. It's really exciting for me. Because I've lived in the Bronx. I've been coming to New York since 2001 for graffiti, and that's as a Canadian, and I found myself very welcome here, and so it's always exciting when there's other people that come to New York and they get to paint and they get to be a part of that kind of history of graffiti and street art in New York City. So thank you guys for coming, and it's really nice to get to meet you. So we're going to kind of go over some questions. I also want you guys, listeners, to think of questions that we may not touch on or ideas that you want to ask once we're finished with asking them questions. And so I guess we'll just get right into it. So we'll start with, at what age approximately did you guys start doing graffiti or thinking about graffiti or inspired by graffiti?
I think it was like 13, 14. It was purely for fun with my friends. We were going out, doing stuff outside. And the very first time I think I sprayed on something was at the dumpster outside our home with my father's help. But my first times were certainly with my friends, most of them boys, I think all of them. And we were hanging around and having fun. Never had in mind that this will go that far and that serious.
Well, I think I began about 12 or 13, but at first I did some stencils, some tagging, and after some years, about 16, I began doing graffiti, but lettering mainly, because I thought at that time I was listening to hip hop and all that stuff, and that was the reason I started doing graffiti, because I wanted to do something, one element of hip hop element, because it's that way I see graffiti as an element of hip hop, as these breakdowns, MCing and all that stuff. So then I continued on and found out about art and all that stuff, but it was mainly, the first beginning was with graffiti.
What town?
Sorry?
In what town?
I was just about to ask what year or what time.
In
What
what
time?
town?
At the time, it was when I started doing graffiti lettering.
When? Where?
Where? In my hometown.
Ah,
Not in Athens, I'm from
Where's
another
that?
city, Sagrinio, it's called.
where's Italy, right?
No, Greece.
And Greece. okay.
Greece, Sagrinio in Greece. And then when I went to study at the university, I went to Athens, and then I became more active as a graffiti writer.
Is Athens known for graffiti for the last 30 years or so, or more?
So you mean
Unlike
in
the
general?
US has had graffiti here since you can go
Oh,
back to
yeah,
the
it's
1940s, 30s, even earlier.
In Greece,
I'm just curious when Greece
it
started
began
adopting this.
about in the 80s, but not from Athens, it was from North Greece.
Thessalonica or
Yeah.
something like that?
Sorry?
Thessalonica?
Yeah, mainly Salonika and Kavala, where D41 was one of the first artists in Greece, then Jason, Paladin.
Mhm. No
We have
ancient-
also a book here with the history of graffiti
No
in
graffiti
Greece.
in the ancient days, no?
Sorry?
No graffiti in the ancient Greek
Yeah,
days.
that was another time, which is something else.
I have to say something.
Yeah, you want to answer it?
No, what? About the ancient Greece?
No.
Actually, in Crete, they were doing quite a graffiti. But, it started, as Nicole said, back in the 80s. And it has bloomed the last 10 years. You can see a lot of artists all around the world that come to Greece, to Athens, to Thessaloniki, all around Greece, and they do pieces, bigger ones, smaller ones, and it's like, right now it's a place that everyone comes and gets thrilled from that.
Question, I'm curious. Graffiti has a long history in many directions, one of them being political reasons.
Yeah.
And I notice a lot of graffiti artists in the contemporary time are more about tagging and marking their own brand. I'm just curious, what do you think the Greek scene is? Is it all about branding as an artist, or do you still see the political bent that's happening?
Well, it depends on the person. I know a lot.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, as an overall direction, do you see one or the other?
You see that also. I know a lot of artists that are basically doing the work based on politics and what's going on, but also not. For example, I don't believe in politics.
I don't.
I believe in people. I believe in minorities. I believe in other stuff. So, and there are a lot of people like me that don't do graffiti as a political action. Yeah, that was the word.
So I heard, yeah.
Say that again? Say that again? Say it again.
Oh, about the very famous
Christos.
tag.
Like,
Vassiliki.
No, I mean, related to like politics and graffiti, tagging a name means. Oh, I'm sorry. Do I continue?
Yeah.
means saying I'm here in a way, right? This is me, this is my name, and I'm here. But consider in a country where the suicide rate has increased like 35% since the last 9 years, when somebody goes out and says, this is my name, this is me, it takes on a whole new meaning, you know? To say I'm here means, in a way, I'm alive too, you know? So,
Which can be cross-sectional to New York and what was going on in 70s and 80s about kids being...
You took the subway
Yeah.
in the 70s, you know what I'm talking about.
But I think also, and that was one of our questions too, and also talking about being women, you know, a lot of times as women graffiti artists, that's normally the first question. So do you guys feel like you address the politics of being women doing graffiti, or how do you address it, and what do you kind of address with? Is it a feminist perspective, or how do you guys identify with your femininity in graffiti?
Do you want to answer first?
I don't think art has to do with whether you're a girl or a boy. It's just art. You see the final piece. I think we shouldn't categorize that because it's, well, how can I say it now? Just a moment, give me one please. Well, I don't do graffiti for politics. It's not that for me. Okay, you can, I just want to do something so anyone that sees it makes him more happy, something colorful. But I don't think politics, well, there is a part of graffiti that has to do with politics, but the other part that it's more about art and colors, you know?
I think usually the slogans are connected to politics. Like there is a
Yeah,
very famous one that says, I'm being tortured. And it's one of the most famous slogans right now on the streets of Athens. And that's a direct, link to the crisis. It's a comment for the situation.
Is that by Greek? Is it by
Yes.
Yeah.
refugees? 'Cause the
No, it's
refugee
by-
issue is so big in Greece right now.
Yeah, but they're Greek. There are a bunch of guys who do that, but I'm not sure they're about politics. They're about individuality and problems. Those guys. But there are a lot of people that are declaring also phrases or doing murals about politics, like the one we had with Merkel, for example, the huge one, the amazing one in Athens downtown.
Yeah, and I think that's always a question too. Is it political? Is it not? Because some artists might do work that we interpret as being really political, but their intentions were not necessarily with political intentions. But public art is political.
Yeah.
When you're making art in public, for sure. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's hard because politics is involved in everything. Either you're conscious of it or you're not conscious.
Exactly.
It's there because you're alive, so you are part of it.
Yeah.
And it manifests through those.
And I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned, just to sideline one for a little bit, you mentioned in the last 10 years graffiti has also increased. And do you think that has to do with what's happening in Greece and the economics and stuff like that?
Art is like expression, and it's when something is suffocating or being pushed, there will be some reaction,
So I guess that would be the question, is how do you see the graffiti in Greece different or similar to graffiti in New York? What are the main differences you guys have noticed when you come here visiting over the last few weeks? And what are some of the differences? And maybe we can always come back to that question too.
Do you have enough time
In Greece it's particularly free. Here it's so difficult to get
Okay, yes. Right. So start from the beginning, because that's a really good point.
So in Greece, it's much more easier to go do graffiti. Okay, maybe not in the downtown, even there you can go, but you can go to random places, you can go to schools, get easily permission. I realized here that it's so difficult to get a written permission. Actually, we were going to do some murals, but we didn't get permissions in time, so we couldn't do anything. And we were waiting every day. Can we find a wall? Can we find a wall to write? So I guess that's the main difference I saw here.
So the attitude about the space and
Yeah,
letting it
it's
happen.
much more, I thought because, everything started here, it would be much more easier. And people would see it as art because it's so many years here. Not like Greece, it's much more new, but they're already accepted that, yes.
Is it legal, graffiti in Greece?
I think it's semi-legal, let's say.
Okay, but there's still like, if you go and you want to paint on a train, they will be after you.
Yeah,
Like, they will be chasing you.
yeah,
Be
not really
relaxed.
about bombing. But you can go to universities, to schools, or other places, no one will tell you anything.
But you can do it on public buildings, because I just want to link it to the
No,
previous.
not only, you can't do it to public, public spaces.
Mhm.
But I think you could get information though more
Yeah.
easily. Yeah, more easily. That's what
Can
I
I just,
see.
can I just say, well, actually part of the reason why I wanted, or we were talking about this idea about creating the show was because I lived in Greece for the last, from 2010 to 2016. And I have never seen the expression of, I've missed being here in the 80s in New York, but when I landed in Athens, the most striking thing for me was all the graffiti. And I felt like it was a daily dialogue. I would see different messages on a weekly basis, and they changed, and they changed, and they changed. I was just fascinated because I felt, even though I'm not a graffiti artist, I felt there was so much energy. There was a sense of freedom. Yes, it is very anarchist in some way, and I was living actually between a very shishi area called Kolonaki and an Exarchia. So I was right in the middle, and you could feel that energy of Exarchia. It was so powerful with the graffiti all over the place. And I think right now Athens is actually one of the cities that has the most graffiti in Eastern Europe. I mean, or if not all Europe, because there's a lot of discontent with everything that's been going on with the European Union, with all, and it's expressed daily. So that energy really comes through in the city. And I wanted to actually meet some of the artists because I see their work, and for me it's just I'm going back to a place that I'm very familiar with, and I wanted you to share it. Of course, it's a very different context, but I wanted you guys to sort of feel a little bit of Nique says there's more freedom. It's so for them to have so much, where of course the democracy that we live here now is completely different than democracy you lived in the 80s, in New York, where it has changed.
So let's go, maybe so let's start with you, Cleo. What are some of your inspirations or influences with your work? And we can start with the present, but if you want to talk, your inspirations, what inspires you, but also what inspires you every day now to go out and do your work. And you also work with textiles, so if you want to talk a little bit about how that happened for you.
Well, my inspiration is the sun, for sure. This is a good thing for us Greeks. I mean, it's like a thing that gives you so much energy. And then it's music, animals, my friends, my life, other lives, huge painters that I have here in my head, and their work, and the freedom that we have to do our art, mostly. Now, for a certain project, I could talk more, like be more detailed, but I think that for me, art is a form of communication, so it has to be through what you see, what you taste, what you live, and then you go on to express it with any way you want or you feel. It could be spray, it could be oil, or it could be textile. Depends on what do you feel better in that way.
And so when you were thinking about the show, when you were making your work, what were some of your inspirations with the work that you showed here?
Well, yeah. So I brought some of my work from a project I did back in 2014 in London, and in Croydon Gallery, and the masks. And then I brought a part project that I made especially for Bronxartspace, which is about the eternity of the soul, the death that we never have actually, the traveling, and that the loss someone, maybe, that you never actually lose because he's there forever. Because I think that we are our actions. So basically, half of the project is about that, about eternity of the human soul, and half of the project is about the masks.
You want to elaborate a little bit on the masks, because they're a very important part in your work. And so, what's your intention with the mask? Why do you use them? Why do you make them?
It's part of a project which has to do with the immune system in psychology that we all people have. When something happens, we have like 6 mechanisms that happen into our brain. For example, we deny something that has already happened to us, so our first reaction is that we deny it happens again. So there are 5 more, and every mask is named after one stage and expresses every stage of these.
You mean of a response of the body to a negative, to a painful event in life that you want to get over?
Yeah.
Okay. It's like,
mostly painful, but it could be good. I mean that you could deny something that is very, very good, and that's your reaction, or you can leave it over again. Like this is metousiosis. This is the 3rd mask, which means metousiosis in Greek is like when you leave something again and again, like joy, for example, or when you meet someone that you feel like you knew him before and you become friends, and that could happen since you were 8 or born, I don't know, and forever. But even something bad, like when you fell from a bicycle or you lose someone you love, and you know that pain, and when you pain again from some kind of the same pain, you feel the same thing. And maybe at first you deny it, which is arnesis, but then you have to find a way to get through it. And your immune system knows how. But of course, during that procedure, you always wear like a mask, so you become something else in order to get to find a solution to that. So pretty much the project is that talks about our reactions in our lives and how we deal with them, and it's a way of my personal expression to give to that thing like a material life, the mask, and then my goal is for the audience, for someone who sees that, to feel something, to like communicate, as I told at the beginning, have like a talk.
Thank you.
And then you have like your influences, inspirations.
You mean from the project here?
Well, let's in general, and then we'll talk about ask.
Well, in general, everyday life, tattoos, anything with color. It's not that big as Cleo, I guess, my answer. And as far as the project for the Bronxartspace, as when Vassiliki told us about having an exhibition here, I decided to make a whole new project based on hip-hop, because it was the reason I started painting and graffiti and all that stuff. So I made some portraits of my favorite MCs that inspired me in some way to begin doing graffiti, just to be a part of the hip-hop community, let's say. But I made them in a more fancy and colorful way.
And is there like a message through this that you want to pass down through the...
Well, like, they're all, I think most of them are people that were living in the hoods here and made it, and now they're doing something better for their life.
And then is there in Greece, is there a lot of hip hop?
Yeah, there is a whole community there too, yeah, of course.
And then have you done a series on those artists?
No, I began with this because, you know, Bronx is the birthplace of everything, so I had to do it here first.
It would be nice to see New York and Greece, the artists together.
Yeah, too.
Just had a quick question.
Yes.
Actually, to both of you. So much work is site-specific, especially as graffiti.
do you consider neighborhoods, walls, and locations before you start your project? Because there's always a
And that's
historical
actually, it's funny,
connection.
that's our next question, how has living in Greece shaped their work? So, and also I'd expand that to wherever, yeah, does your environment, how do you feel your environment shapes your work? You know, my question is, do you feel that living in Greece has shaped your work? Such as like a color palette, like I was talking yesterday, one thing in New York you notice it's a very Caribbean color palette with the neon colors. So I noticed when German writers come here, I also see they're used very industrial or muted, but that's also, it's also temperamental to the fact that whatever you have available, you know, because again in Canada there is limited colors. And pink was very available, so everyone thinks my favorite color to paint with is pink, but it's not. But it's all good. But just to say your question.
Again, site-specific reasoning about the location of work, which is very important for a lot of graffiti artists. For instance, I was reading something about JR and the piece he did in Brazil, where he had the faces on the buildings facing the very wealthy neighborhoods. He was very specific, he was very strategic about why he did that. So I'm just curious, do you find that happening in the work, or maybe it's just availability of a blank wall?
No, I think that is a tip for everyone.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry?
Say it again.
Say that again? That's again.
Ella, no, there is. I can get you there. Actually, this is my father's home, so this was the first time I did graffiti. I never saw graffiti in Kifissia. It's like an area in the suburbs.
Sorry.
There are a lot.
That was my legs.
Like aristocratic.
Oh my God, that's me.
Actually, this is our answer is like a tip. I think it's the first thing I learned when I did my serious first mural, is that you first find the location. It's like first you have the wall in order to do anything else. Choose the colors, choose your palette, what piece you would do there, what do you want to say, who's gonna see it, is it gonna be covered in like a week or like never? So the location is pretty important, I think. I don't know, Nicole.
Yeah, I just agree with Cleo. I think she can't.
So yeah.
Okay.
Question.
Yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, in my few travels to Greece, I was really astounded and loved the graffiti, both local and international, on display there. But I'm not really particularly familiar with the scene. So, is the formation of crews important, like collective groupings of artists in terms of training each other, mentoring, or developing a unique style within a certain grouping of people? Or regions, like Vassiliki versus Athens versus other regions, do they have developed a unique regional style?
Let me answer. Well, actually, in every city there is the older writer, and the older writer, the new writers have an example of the old one, so every city has this style. It depends on the first graffiti writer of the city, actually, I guess. They're all influenced from
The
that.
OG of...
Exactly. Yeah, that's the case.
Should I answer? Yeah. Yeah, there are. And I think that we both, I mean that you were always into something like that. There is no, how can I explain that? Wait, give me a minute. When you're collaborative or where you create stuff, it's like you have a space, an atelier, and you work all together, and this is outside. Of course you get inspired. I can get inspired from a sketch that Nicole did, and this is art. It's like a teamwork thing. So yeah, of course, and there are crews and stuff like that. Less now. Back in the 80s, in the 90s, there were more. And it's quite important, I think. It's like, we have a word in Greece called ayeli, which is like a
Herd.
herd. So yeah, it's really important because it takes a lot eventually it's like fun, but it's dangerous. You have to have a lot of dynamic attitude to do it, because it's a huge wall and you cannot erase it. I mean that it's you have to want to do it. So if you have friends with you and or people who know how, or even not, just be there for you, it's very important. Yeah.
I have a question that relates to that. What are some of the advantages and disadvantages of being a female street artist in Greece? For example, the police. Let's say if they catch you at night and you are with other male crews, will you get away with it because you're a female? I'll just give an example. You know?
Yes.
Yeah? No. Aquí sí, I think that asking us that, and everyone, of course, asks us that, is like pretty unfair, because we're not like aliens. I mean that no one asks a man the same question. No one asks a man, how do you feel doing graffiti? So, no, we don't, it's not like we have a special reaction. I think, yeah, a woman, because we are a woman, it's not like we are a man, but it would be the same. I mean, I don't believe in sexism or sexist, and I think that every person should be independent to do what they want to do, so it's not different if you're a man or a female. But of course, women or even men have their IQ of the sentimental IQ, how you call that?
Yeah. Emotional intelligence.
Yeah, more advanced. But that doesn't mean only women have that. So if the police come during a piece, if you're being like aggressive, yeah, you will have a problem. But if you're polite and say, okay, I will go, or even say, I want to do that, you have no problem. So, yeah.
Without a permit.
Yeah. Actually,
Maybe also add to that, what about with other male graffiti street artists?
It
Yeah,
depends on
so
their
yeah, that's good. That would,
Yeah, how do they treat
that
you?
just totally changed
Do
the
they
dynamic.
treat you as equal, as equal artists?
Or
Just
how
because
have
the
your
numbers are different, right?
experiences?
Because there are not as many women graffiti artists as there are men. So what is that dynamic like, being outnumbered?
Well, if you do that for many years, they know you at last and they respect you. You're the same as they are. You go to festivals and paint as they're doing, and there's no difference on that.
yeah, this is true.
But
It's
you
like,
need time so you can prove them you're doing a good job.
yeah.
That's it.
And it's like if you start thinking yourself as a person and not as a woman, you won't have that. I mean that, of course, if you start to think, yes, I'm a woman, how they treat me, you will have that treatment.
But you have to do anything they do. You have to get your spray
Yeah.
can, you have to do the
You
lab
climb,
there,
you
you
don't
have to
say
do
like,
the
can
background.
you put this inside?
Yeah,
Can you
in
not
that
do
case,
that?
it wouldn't be the same, I guess.
Yeah.
Is there,
Sorry.
is it valued more in terms of just like getting up and getting your name everywhere? I mean, is that a thing in the Greek scene?
Well,
Was it, or
no,
has
it's
that
not the
changed, or
graffiti.
is it different things are valued?
Well, it's globally, it's how graffiti started, just writing
Right,
the name
but I'm
and
wondering
being
if nowadays it's not a question of just getting your name
yes,
everywhere,
yeah.
and that's where you get fame and get.
So, sorry.
I need the art.
Well, you
Is that important, or is it
at the
not important?
beginning, you do your name so everyone knows who you are, that you are active, you're in the graffiti scene. But as time passes, you do other things too, because they know you. There are not so many people in Greece, that you don't need that much time.
And do you have to go like all Athens? I mean, is there such a thing? Is
Oh,
there a
yeah.
city
Yeah.
all Athens,
Of
or
course,
like
if they want to
all
know you, not all
neighborhoods, or-
Athens, all of Greece.
you got to do like
Yeah,
all
really many
the
festivals all over Greece, from north to
all the
south,
islands, like
yeah,
all
actually.
Dodecanese.
Actually, because you have nice weather, nice festivals at summertime, everything's great.
So
why
it makes a
not?
big difference.
Yeah, that's the way, they will know you if you go there, paint with them, and get to know you, not just by internet or Facebook.
Right.
That's not the thing.
No,
You
yeah.
have to go personally and meet people all over. get to know the people, go for graffiti with other people. So when someone comes to Athens, they call me, go for graffiti. If I go to Vassiliki, anywhere I go, I can find someone to do something. That's the case. It's
Does
like a big
Ethnos has a
family.
scene? They didn't when I was there.
No. We never mess with our islands, I think.
Oh, really? So islands are, you don't mess with the islands.
That was a real
Yeah, it's a rule.
Really?
If
It's
you
an
go
unwritten
to an
rule?
island, yeah, this is like ego, I think. I
What's
don't know
that?
about Nicole. If we talk like it's in Cyclades or in the
Well, it
islands.
depends on the island.
Yeah.
We won't do it on ancient monuments and stuff, we're not vandals.
No.
But in big islands, there are also graffiti scene and street
Sure,
art.
sure.
There's everywhere.
But there are certain islands, definitely, there's an ethic, even if you're an established writer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
there's
don't
an
mess with that
ethic in
island.
the
You don't mess
whole-
with the islands.
Yeah.
Unless there's an established
general.
So
scene
that's like
there.
here with the boroughs. I mean, even within the boroughs, each artist has a specific neighborhood that's like their kind of where they have walls. And sometimes you set out, but sometimes it's where you live. Sometimes it's where you have a lot of different walls that you get permission to do. So it becomes like your little area, and nobody better mess with it.
Oh, and that's the benefit of
For
a
real.
crew too, because then you
Well,
have
and
other
but with
people.
girls though, I don't. Are you guys involved with crews? Because with girls, it's a little bit different. In New York, it's a little. We do have crews, but it's very. The crew idea is not necessarily. It's very rare that you have a crew that will do all the work together all the time, or collaborate. A lot of times, crews in New York are just names that you put up now. Where back in the 80s, 90s, when trains were happening and all kinds of craziness was happening, you had to have that tight knit family. So now you have the TATS crew, you have the UW crew. You still have crews that are out there that are tight, that all work together. They can paint each other's style, and that was really the thing too, is that you knew how to mesh everything as one.
Style.
Yeah, like each other can do each other's tags or whatever. If someone didn't show up, you could pull it off. But it's very rare in New York that you have that kind of crew sensibility, that tight knit anymore. And I think it's because they've all known each other for so long. I mean, a lot of them have known each other since the 60s or 70s, so it's like 40 years of a friendship. Yeah, I think that plays out the dynamics too.
Very few laughs.
So, but I think you guys in Greece, there's more crews and you have to be necessarily part of a crew now.
Many times I go alone painting.
Yeah, me too. I used to paint alone
Then
too.
we'll just get my colors and go
Yes.
paint. Or otherwise we collaborate with other people, we're not antisocial, but sometimes when you go graffiti, you don't think about anything, you want to be alone by the sea, under the sun, and just
Yeah.
paint. So that's great.
I'm from Spain. In Valencia, there is a lot of movement of graffiti.
Yeah, that's so
Many years ago. But in Spain, I think what I listen, it's very different because it's a group of people, make graffiti, so they, it's
mainly
I don't remember to make one graffiti go alone to.
Yeah.
It's a group of people
Actually,
every night make the action,
Yeah.
whatever. They have a collective, it's very. This is from my experience in Valencia because I was very involved in the
that's
street
more,
art.
for crews that go bombing or
Yes.
train bombing where you can't go alone, but if you do something semi-legal or legal at an abandoned building, you don't need to have other people with you.
It's a gang. In the night, it's a gang, so 3
Yeah,
painting
but
in one of them,
Exactly,
so
if you go out at night,
why,
you need someone
this is
to
why
get
they
you
are
back.
collective,
Yeah.
they're a collective to work together, think about the mural or what
Yeah.
we want to do together, So I remember one night, they were painting inside the subway. Well, in Valencia, the subway is very small, but outside, inside the subway, the train was amazing.
Exactly.
So it was a group in 5 minutes. Boom.
Yeah, exactly. They go in
And
a
the
group
shape,
so they
no?
can get done in 5 minutes, go out, get a picture, get a video, and everything's
Yeah.
perfect.
No, this is wrong. Why you're speaking about alone? Doing.
Yeah, I don't do that much of
Yeah.
bombing. I don't like vandalism that much. That's why.
So whose work is this?
Oh, yeah, so,
This is a thing.
is this all disease or different?
No,
We have
Okay.
from
Are these many
So
different?
any other questions? So I guess we'll wrap it up. Yeah, I feel like we're gonna wrap
Cleo.
Oh,
Yeah, any other questions, any
I'm just curious
other
about the
ideas?
island thing again, like hydra or leaky nose or any of the other. So generally, there's very little graffiti throughout the islands.
Yeah, generally yes.
I
we
think-
don't- Actually, it's difficult, I think, in an island to find paint.
I was also gonna say it's hard to like, it's hard, also when you, like I go sometimes away to Bermuda and what happens is they all, when you're on an island, the police know.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
like you can't really
It's
run
a
very
short
far on an
community.
island. Like there is a limitation to where you can go.
Yeah.
So that's like, in Bermuda, I will not do illegal graffiti
Have you
because they will
noticed-
know it's me.
It's
They'll
going to
know.
take a wild speculation. Have you noticed any of the Syrian refugees getting involved with graffiti because the Syrian issue is so big now in Greece?
Seriously.
No, I would love that though.
Well, they do some projects for the refugees camps.
Not projects, this
Just that, but they, not the Greek government, some,
Non-profit
some non-profit organization, not even Greek, I
well,
think.
let me rephrase it. Graffiti by nature tends to have its own avant-garde, has its own individualistic movement. It's not sanctified by any patriarchal system.
Okay.
So a lot of artists do it because they're independent. They're like wild cats. Like well, artists tend to be independent. I was just wondering if you saw any of this movement coming because there's been so much issue with migrants coming into Greece. Are you seeing any of this being reflected in the art world?
Yeah, of course. There are many cases about, war, refugees, Syria, economic problems, everything, yeah.
And about supporting that, supporting.
Yes, supporting that.
Was that the refugees are not doing?
That's
That's what I'm
what
saying. Has there
are the
been-
refugees doing graffiti? I don't know.
I think there are many problems.
Yeah, I think when you're surviving, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But that's a very good question, though.
If it's snowing, I don't think they will.
There's always people who filter through.
Yeah, because I think about the caves, I don't know if you've seen, there's a show Nova where it talks about, I don't know if it's called Cave of Dreams, but it does talk about in France where, the cave painting with the broken finger is actually all that graffiti in that cave is one boy, because they can tell by the one hand that has the broken pinky finger. So they thought it was a group of boys, but it actually was just one boy by himself doing all this. So I think about him, he might have been stuck in that cave for a few months to do that much work, So just thinking about, and I go to, if we are in survival mode, do we do graffiti? Are we willing to risk that? And especially as, I'm Canadian, I'm not going to go do illegal graffiti in New York because I'm going to be number one to be like, they'll be like, see you later. Bye. As they arrest me, your country's better, or I have better health care, or more access in my country, so it's easier for me to go
But you raise
home.
an interesting point. Because actually, I was working with a bunch of graffiti artists here in New York in the 70s, Ron English and a few other people. We would start to facing commercial ads all over the place. And we would go up at night, and the crew we were with, they were on the line about should they be here or not. But
Okay.
that wasn't the issue. The issue was how do we get away with this? There's always that individual spirit. We were facing all sorts of advertising ads all over New York. And
I feel
again,
like
this
they
was all done undercover, and that's why I was curious. Are you seeing this in Greece as opposed to being sanctioned by an organization that says you can have this wall?
No, actually, these people are suffering so much that they try the whole day to find something to eat,
Okay.
and the next one, and somewhere to sleep. I live in a place in Athens where all of them are being protected by Nique's non-profit organization. I live in city, and you can see that more or less, I would hope one day that they would think about creating something, even graffiti, but they are starving, and they're being chased, and they're being
Right.
beaten all the time.
But because of those situations, I would think they would be some of the most eligible artists who want to have a voice because of those exact
And now
issues.
you're making me think about all the artists where their parents were first came from Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic in the 1950s and 60s. So they're the first generation to kind of be
That's
So that's a very interesting
artistic
conversation.
movements in a lot of ways, and that's what I'm
Yeah,
curious about.
this is true. It's action reaction, but
Yeah.
although it's not at that point. I mean that it's really, I don't know how.
I mean, they need to be integrated into society first. I think your point is really good because you're talking about the first, like their parents were immigrating and then they were born here, so they have already gone through the process of being integrated in the American society.
And angry too. Or
And they're
seeing
still,
their parents go
yeah,
through
because
that,
exactly the
Yeah.
trauma of going through the immigration process is inherited from their families. But I do think that I agree with Cleo. Like I lived in Athens for many years. It's too soon for them to be.
I don't live there, so I don't have.
Yeah, but it's a
Yeah,
good, it's a good
I
question.
just
It's
don't know how
a
this
great question.
issue is migrating into current Greece, because I see it on the news all the time, and it makes it sound like the Greeks are just beating the hell out of these people, and there's, I mean, I see these neo-Nazis in Greece.
Yeah, where there is intense
These are not
racism,
Greeks,
definitely.
they're no brains. Like,
I'm sorry?
those that you describe are not Greeks, they have no brains.
Oh.
They're not, these organizations who see against that faces, they're not even Greek anymore. They have other communities in
Very
there.
interesting.
Albanians, Russians, so I can't even understand what they want to say, because their first thing was, everyone should be Greek here, all immigrants should go. But in the same organization with them, there are also immigrants from second or third generation, so they're just stupid, don't know. They're just like this. They do everything they are told to do. They don't have any critical
Focus.
thinking. Yeah, thinking.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, nice. So well, thank you, ladies. I don't know. Do you guys want to add anything? Is there anything else?
I'm okay. Thank you very much.
Good. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Linda. And Bronxartspace. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. So please stay.
This is what I.
There was one point I forgot to bring up. Cleo43. I love the fact that you're making masks out of soft material, which takes it into a whole other context, but that's a whole other issue.
And also
but-
rope. I think the industrial rope, the fact that you're using like rope and stuff like that, I love that too. Yeah.
It's just, masks have this traditional feeling of something else. By moving into the soft fabric, you've opened up different issues. It's very smart.
Thank you.
You want to answer?
So tired. I know.
My friend was lady from Greece, but she doesn't speak, so she has to.
Well, she's from my house, so I think you'll today. It's on a
Bien, quindi non vedo